the microphone. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Dave, the Roof Poppy, your favorite roofer's favorite roofer, live with you here. Got a guest with us tonight, but we are here in the shop. We have built kind of a impromptu podcast area over here where we can actually get in and interview some people. And so I think this is a really good opportunity for us to take advantage of this space and also kind of have conversations with folks. Austin played a real pivotal role in helping us get this space here. And I think that's just kind of, I wanted to bring you on the show, man, and do an episode with you just to bring you back to the space after, you know, as real estate. I reached out to Austin and I said, look, this is what I need. This is what I want. Where do we find this stuff? And we were able to pull some things together and then acquire this. So Austin Stevens, got him here with us. He's from San Antonio, and he's a home builder and a fitness professional, but he is also a pretty, like I said, a real estate agent, pretty badass real estate agent, and a very good friend of mine. Austin, what is up?
Awesome, dude, Dave. Excited to be here, man, and really appreciate the opportunity.
For sure.
Really appreciate you, letting me play a role, helping you guys get the space. I know with all the growth that you and Jackie have planned and the expansion of everything that I could be a part of that. And I just want to say that I appreciate you.
Man, I do appreciate that. It was finding this space was really cool for us because we were able to get what we wanted from the commercial and the industrial side of things, but also with the epoxy floors and the finished out walls and the bathroom, like
Right.
all the features that are inside of this business space, this commercial space. It really made it kind of like a no-brainer for us. And I know this was like the last one, wasn't it?
Yeah,
This was the last
It was
one.
the last one, and I mean, it was super huge being able to work with you and Jackie. I can say
Yeah.
firsthand, all the clients I've worked with in the past. I mean, you guys were more than Johnny on the spot. I said, hey, I need tax returns, I need docs, I need this, I need. 5 minutes, Jackie had everything laid out, and the fact that you guys, it just says a lot about
Right.
how organized and how well oiled this machine is that you're building. And like I said, man, I couldn't be more proud of what you guys have done so young, and just absolutely looking forward to seeing where you guys go.
How old are you?
So 35 years
35.
old.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm 2 years older than
Yeah.
you. I'll be 30. Well, I'll be 38 in February. Man,
Yeah.
getting old's a bitch. I'll
Yeah,
tell you that.
yeah.
It's there is shit that hurts. I was loading that for Christmas. I bought myself a Suron X, right, the
Yeah.
electric dirt bike,
Yeah.
and it's like 115 pounds soaking wet. And I was moving it from my truck to my driveway this afternoon, and I turned wrong, and I felt my shoulder, and I was just like, oh, that's gonna hurt for a week. You know, like this
Yeah.
getting old stuff's a real pain in the ass, man. But so 35. You're 35. Tell me a little bit about yourself, dude. What are you doing now? I know that there's real estate, there's some custom home building going on. You recently had just this in 2023. You had a fitness competition that you were in, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 2022.
22.
Yeah, 2022. I competed in my first NPC bodybuilding competition. Did really well. Ended up getting nationally qualified in men's physique class per my class, which was something completely just out of the blue.
Really?
I kind of made the decision to go all in, uh, up the alcohol, focused on diet at the beginning of 2022 in January. And as I was kind of progressing, my body was changing. I was like, you know what? I think I may want to try to give this bodybuilding show a shot.
Yeah.
And obviously, being surrounded by the people that were pushing me and supporting me to do that, because it's not something that's easy on the body
Right.
or the mind.
Yeah.
What it takes to.
So what like I'm curious. When I was younger in my early 20s, I felt like I had the energy and stuff. I did a bulk and a cut of prep, right, for the Texas State Naturals in like 2013.
Okay.
And it was the most miserable fucking 12 weeks of my life,
Yeah.
right? It
Yeah.
was ketosis is not fun,
Yeah.
especially if it's like not something that you're used to. There is a lot of risk to going into some of these Instagram influencers in fitness. I see these dipshits putting themselves into cutting cycle after cutting cycle after cutting cycle, and there's no show, there's no nothing they're doing, and they're
Yeah.
wreaking havoc on their hormones. What makes somebody be like, fuck it, hey, let me just at 35, bro? And you're not competing against a bunch of bums in there at 35 either. These
No.
dudes have been bodybuilding and
And that's the thing. So, because I competed at 34, I wasn't eligible to compete in a Masters, which Masters is going to be 35 and up. And so, yeah, as 34 years old, I'm competing against 18, 19, 20-year-old kids.
yeah,
Obviously, with my age and just kind of always being athletic and always keeping my body going, that muscle maturity definitely does show
it
a little
helps.
bit. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
those
And
man
it just
biceps are a
the
little different.
striations and everything. And like I said, getting on stage, I got on stage at right at 2% body fat. So I'm talking.
What
I
the
mean,
fuck?
this is and it's absolutely insane, and the process is insane, and you're constantly looking at yourself every day, and
Yeah.
when you do that, it's very hard to see the changes as you're progressing.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of people give up in their fitness journey, or what they have mapped out for their goals,
Right.
is because they're not seeing that immediate change.
Sure.
It's hard to see 5 pounds come off.
Yeah.
It's easy to see
30
35
pounds.
pounds come off, right? But the time that it takes to get there, you know, a lot of folks they're kind of like, "Ah, man, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it." It's the same with what you're trying to do, getting bigger, getting leaner. It's like, okay, you feel good, you feel strong, but you don't see from that starting point to show day
Yeah.
and how big of a difference that is. And it's an absolutely incredible journey. Aside from the fitness side of it, I think it was kind of the discipline and proving to myself like I'm capable of doing something that is not fun. It's not easy. Eating 3 pounds of chicken and a half pound of ground beef every single day for.
What's going through your head when you're trying to remind yourself? Because like that's not a fun thing to do, and most normal people don't just sit around and say. And I don't want to be. I don't want to have another one of these conversations where we're like, oh, people are just built different, right? Because
Right.
it's like. Half the time I feel like, yeah, that could be true. People can just be wired certain ways to do certain types of activity because they like it. And then some people have just a fucking chip on their shoulder, right? There's some guys that just have something to prove, whether it's to themselves or to their family or to somebody else. I think one of the things that helps me a lot of times, I'm going to be real vulnerable here for a second, is I'm always seeking positive affirmation, right? Like everything I do, everything from the way that I treat my relationship with my wife, I want my wife to be proud of me. I want her to tell me these things.
Of course.
Right? I want people inside of my industry to be like, damn, Dave's a good dude, right? Or Dave's a giver, or Dave's a good leader. I want my employees to feel certain things. So everything that I'm doing is very selfish because I'm trying to fill a need, right, in myself to get this positive affirmation. And it fucking takes a lot of work, right? Being completely honest, man, call it selfish, call it whatever you want. I just don't want to be a fucking failure, dude.
Yeah, and I think for me, anyways, failure. Obviously, failure is a big word, And I
Yeah.
think the way that people view what failure is, because I mean, failure is life's greatest teacher. Where the big separation is, does failure lead into quitting? Because when you're failing, you're learning. But when you just give up on the failure, it's just quitting at that point. And
There's a big difference in
there's a
there.
big difference,
Damn.
right? Yeah, because and I've been in business for myself since 2015, and had some phenomenal years, and learned a lot. And when I say learned a lot, that means I took a lot of L's.
Yeah.
And those are all things I can go back on and say, look, been in this situation before, avoid this, look out for this. And of course, those situations have come up, and I'm like, I know that, failed, wrote a hard check the hard way, and moved on from it, and was able to better the situation the next time, right? But yeah, man, it's one of those things. Like you said, failure is can be viewed so many different ways, and it's like, don't be afraid to fail. You can't be afraid to fail.
Did you always have that kind of that mindset? Was that growing up for you? Were you like active in sports? What was there?
Yeah,
You
I
know?
mean, I totally. I mean, I was a athlete. I did everything from BMX, riding skateboards, playing football, basketball, up into my teens. Where I eventually going into my 20s was, you know, traveling the road, riding bulls, and just having fun,
Yeah.
right? But it was always something, and maybe not a chip on the shoulder, but I hated letting myself down or feeling like I let myself down. That's kind of one of my biggest things, right? It's because, I know you had mentioned, like, you feel selfish sometimes because those affirmations of everybody saying, like, man, you're our champion. You're doing everything and you're doing it for us. Yeah, you think it's selfish. But to the ones that are contributions of that selfishness, they may not see it quite that way.
Yeah.
And like I said, that kind of goes back into the your support system, because no matter what it is that you're doing in life, bodybuilding, training of any type,
Right.
if you don't have the right support system, and people saying, we appreciate everything that you're doing, and good for you trying to grow to better the entirety of everything, it can be very, very hard.
Man, you're not wrong, dude. So like, um, I have a weird outlook on family dynamics, right? I learned in my early 20s that family wasn't always something that you were born into, right? Like a lot of times people are given the opportunity to pick and choose their family at some points in their life. And man, it was so important. It became so important for me about 2 years ago when I heard, and no bullshit, this is gonna sound like such motivational bullshit. I heard what's the guy's name? The motivational speaker with the huge hands. He's real tall.
Oh,
Somebody help us out here. It's you know what I'm talking about, real famous.
yeah, no,
guy.
I mean he's
Yeah.
like the OG of
Yeah.
motivational
Exactly.
speakers.
So you know who I'm talking about.
Yes,
I can't
I do.
remember his name right now. To save
It'll
my
come.
life,
It'll
but,
come.
It'll come. But he was saying that everybody has the right to tell people how they are going to be treated, right? And that you have an obligation to demand that people treat you a certain way, and so that's your fucking right as a person. And my, again, positive affirmation is my whole thing, right? And I was at again, being vulnerable, I was at my son's first birthday party, and my mom had said something to me that I felt like was just like, it was really kind of disrespectful,
Okay.
and it wasn't anything new, right?
Right.
My mom's, she knows all of my scars, marks, bumps, and bruises. She knows everything about me, and nobody hurts like family does,
Right. Yeah.
And sometimes they don't even realize that they're doing it to you. And I remember my mom said something to me, and I had to walk away for a second, and I said, "Don't say anything, just walk away, keep your head cool." And then I remembered hearing him say this, And he said everybody has a right to tell people how they're going to be treated. And I turned around and I walked back over there and I said, hey, you know what? I'm not going to let you speak to me that way. You're in my home.
Right.
You know, you're in my home.
Yeah.
And just FYI, my decision making feeds 7 families.
Right.
My decision making's made me and my family 6 figures for the last 3 years. My decision making puts food on the table for over 22 different children underneath our company organization.
Yeah.
Right? So maybe when I was adolescent or maybe when I was growing up, maybe I didn't have all the fucking right decision making skills back then.
Yeah.
That says a lot about my parents because it was your job to teach me that shit.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. 100%.
But here I am at 35 years old, at 35 at the time, 36 years old. And that was the last time that I spoke to my mom, dude.
Yeah.
And that was almost, almost a year ago.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's really hard when you have to realize that there are some people that you are going to start life off with, but there's no guarantee that they're going to be there at the end of it. And it's fucking difficult, dude.
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest with you, there are days that I want to reach out and I want to call my mom.
Right.
But I am not going to be treated like that.
Right.
Not by anybody.
Yeah.
And we get to pick.
Yeah. No, that 100% you do. And,
I'm not trying to air my dirty laundry
Nah,
because I don't care, right? Like,
yeah.
It's the fucking truth is the truth, and that's the example that I have to pull from, and that's where my life experience comes from. And it may not, maybe my sister or somebody's gonna get butthurt because, I don't fucking care.
Yeah.
Right? The truth is I have a learning moment and an opportunity, and this is what life has shown me. This is what reality is to me.
Yeah.
And I think that you're absolutely right, dude. So tell me about your support system growing up. What was that like?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, I grew up with brothers. My oldest brother is 10 years older than me. And, he's probably one of my biggest supporters. We have that kind of long age range, but he's 10 and I'm rolling around in diapers. He's changing diapers, like he's being a super active brother. He's
Taking
like,
care of you.
exactly. Both parents in the home, folks still together. I come from a pretty wholesome family, man. We were super low middle class. Both parents work, both parents still work. And it's
Where'd you live in the city, out in the country?
right here in San Antonio. Yeah. And my dad traveled mostly, like most dads do that want to make a halfway decent living, out of town, out of state. But yeah, man, family dynamic super good, but it comes with the biggest challenges because I feel like having both parents in the house, being raised single mom, single dad, ultimately, and you kind of hit on this, but it's like they didn't prepare us or give us the tools necessary to be successful.
So because what I'm hearing you say is just because I grew up like this or my household like this doesn't mean that I was given anything. What do you fucking know?
Yeah.
Right?
Shocker.
Yeah.
Total shock.
Complete fucking
Yeah.
shocker.
And I mean, and that's the thing. That's not on our folks either.
I mean, forgive me for jumping out on a limb here, but you're pretty white.
I mean,
And you
I'm
mean to tell
I'm
me that
pretty
you
white.
had no fucking, there was no like,
No.
nobody put some shit in place for you to fucking be white.
Nah, yeah. I mean,
Damn.
and that's the thing. And it's like I said, that's a generational curse that most, probably 90+% of Americans end up dealing with.
I've noticed, for instance, my parents let the public school system teach us.
100%.
I learned more about life and science and history from school than I did. And I'm the exact opposite of that way with my kids. Like, we YouTube shit. We have conversations about things.
Yeah.
My daughters, my 5 and my 7-year-old, can very thoroughly explain to you how condensation forms on the outside of a Coke can.
Yeah, exactly.
That they understand this shit.
Which is awesome. And man, I do the same thing. Me and my 9-year-old, I'm dropping her off at school a couple of weeks ago, and we're talking about what the difference between an asset and a liability is.
Really?
She's 9 years old.
Nice.
But these are things that are super important to me because the public education system,
fucked.
completely fucked. Public education system was actually built and manufactured by the Rockefellers, which, you know, I
You got
don't want to go into too much detail with
foil
there,
hat
but
over here.
you know, the Rockefellers were built on not educating to be successful, but educating to work.
Right.
They want to program you to
Building
be
worker
the 9 to
bees.
5, to not really give yourself any value. They sure as hell don't want you to learn how to utilize debt. People are like, debt, I'm out of here. I don't know nothing to do with debt. Debt is the best thing that you can live with if you understand how that all works, right?
Yeah, I think there's a certain type of people that take Dave Ramsey's advice, and there's certain types of people that don't.
Yeah,
You know
right.
what I mean? And
100%.
it's the fucking world needs both kinds.
Yeah,
Man.
yeah.
You know, it
Yeah.
is what it is.
Yeah.
I need employees. My employees need supervisors. The supervisors need people to supervise.
Right.
You know, it takes all kinds. I think the thing that most people don't realize is that you know, just because your parents were 9 to 5ers doesn't mean that, you know, life for you means go to college, get 80 grand in debt, and then come out and work a job that only pays $50,000 a year.
100%.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's like, and we don't understand taxes. We don't understand how to, you know, reduce our tax liability. And most people go to work, and it's just, God, if I knew then,
Yeah.
you know, half this shit that I know
Yeah.
now, how far in advance from here I would probably fucking be, man, is like 9 day difference.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, you know, imagine being a freshman in high school and learning what the difference between asset and a liability was.
That's awesome.
You know what I mean? It's, you know, most of us graduate, walk the stage without knowing how to write a check.
Well, and you know what? Life has changed, bro. My daughter, my niece and nephew were over at the house between Halloween and Thanksgiving, and I asked my nephew, who's 11, I said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And he said, "I want to be a YouTuber,
Yeah.
a content creator on
Yeah.
YouTube." And for the first time in my life, I realized I was like, that's an actual fucking career path for
Yeah.
some people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's a full blown possibility. I remember the first time my wife, somebody said, David's always, we were hanging out together like friends and family or something. And somebody said to Jackie, "Wow, David's always on social media." She said, "Well, he makes money on social media, so it's kind of like a business
Right.
for him." And I heard her say that shit, and I was like, "Did you just say what the fuck I thought you said?" You know what I'm
you
saying?
tell people I'm making money from this shit?
You just gave. I felt like that was like, thank you. I'm
Yeah,
here. You know what I
yeah.
mean? It is with my wife. Finally acknowledged my hard work. You know? But honestly, though, man, life has changed so much. In you know, we were talking about this earlier off show. I graduated high school in December of 2003, so a semester earlier. And but still 2004, it was post 9/11 for us, man. It was
Yeah.
still real close. All my friends were going off to war, dude.
Yeah.
You know, like half my friends were either going to, you know, jail or to Iraq.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
And
no, 100%.
it was a really weird time, but we didn't have, man, fucking Google. You know, we didn't even have Facebook when I was in high school.
No,
We
yeah,
had
right.
MySpace like shortly after.
I had I didn't have Facebook, or I don't think Facebook was even
I thought
a
it was
thing
a
until
book.
after I got out of high school.
Yeah.
Because it was pretty much MySpace all the way through high school.
Yeah.
And then it was like once I got out,
LimeWire.
oh, LimeWire. Boy,
LimeWire and
y'all get us
Napster,
caught
dude.
on camera. Oh,
Pirating.
LimeWire.
So many pirated.
I
movies
I could tell you how
and
to
songs.
jack up a 2000 model Dell. That's for sure.
Dude, man, I tell you, I've had so many viruses on that damn
yeah.
computers from LimeWire, but it's just a different time.
Yeah.
It's a different time, and I think like with the access we were talking about earlier, support group, right? Like having a support network, and even the places that people can go nowadays is different from where like we had to plug in. I remember trying to fix an old car that we had one time, and we had to literally go to AutoZone and buy a Chilton's manual and read this shit in a book like how to fix things.
Yeah.
You know, and it's fucking, you can learn anything you want to learn nowadays with the internet. Tell me why there's still so many miserable fucks out there that are just not taking advantage of life.
Man, that's one of the many questions that I wish I had a good answer for, because I feel like you said, we didn't grow up with this. We didn't grow up
No.
with the technology. You got a question, boom, answered.
Yeah.
We had to like hit the books, actually
People
research. Yeah, and then
find a neighbor that was an architect and ask them.
right,
You know.
like talk to this guy to get to this guy, and like, it's like with the power of social media and off camera, you and I had this conversation. One of my big goals for 2024 is to be more active. On the phone we were talking. I'm like, dude, Dave, there's guys and girls out there that are half as talented
Yeah.
at what I do best,
Yeah.
but
What the fuck do they have that I don't?
right,
You know.
they
Nothing,
got
bro.
right
Execution.
and
That's it.
it's the execution, and it's like you said, it's that not putting yourself out there,
Yeah.
right? Not branding yourself properly.
Most people, you know what? Most people are afraid they're gonna do it right, and it's because they know the stones are coming. At some point in
Yeah.
time, somebody's gonna know something.
Yeah.
They're gonna say something to you. They're gonna talk shit.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are really worried about that, right? Because it does come with a price.
Of course.
For instance, I had somebody leave me crazy voicemails and shit like that because they heard me say that there was no such thing as non-binary women, right?
I remember this.
You remember
Yeah,
that? Okay.
I remember
so I had
that.
a bunch of voicemails. I was gonna have the FBI raid my home. All this crazy shit was gonna happen to me, and I was inciting violence against whatever. And this person even went and left a 1-star review on my Google, and that's not something that I can remove.
Right.
So I had to address it.
Right.
And I addressed it, and I said, you know what, Tiffany, this lady's name's Tiffany. Tiffany, I wish that you believed in our right to free speech as much as you would demand that we respect your right to free speech,
Yep.
right? You can call yourself whatever you want to, but I don't have to play those games.
Right. Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
No,
Like, that's your
100%.
choice to play that game.
Yep.
And all that to say this, man, the people are gonna fucking come after you. Whether you're doing it or not.
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna fucking hate on you. Somebody's gonna have some negative to say. And somebody may even, trying to piss in your Cheerios because of it, dude. And I think that stops a lot of people are like, well, what if nobody likes what I have to say?
Right.
Nobody's going to at first,
Or what about if everybody loves exactly what you're saying?
Well, yeah, what if you say the right shit and
Yeah.
people are like, hey, this guy's
On to something.
this guy's smart, this guy's talented, this guy is giving, knowledge and experience and education away. I like what he has to say. And then you become influential. I had a dude named John one time approach me at a conference and told me that something that I put on Facebook, he read and watched it a few times. And he told me it saved his marriage.
Yeah.
Okay, fucking weird,
Dude.
You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I remember John. I know I'm pretty good friends with him now. You know, we talk on Facebook pretty regularly. But that was not something that I had anticipated. I just about
Hey, dude,
not being a piece of shit.
Yeah, I wasn't planning on saving your whole marriage, but cool,
fuck
right?
it. Yeah, I'll take it, dude.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's the thing. It's getting it said. Whatever you said, whatever the magic recipe was, that's something that he could have heard 10 times over, and it was
anywhere
just
else.
about the way that you delivered it, or it was that time. And I'm big on time, and like I'm big in my Christian faith. I believe that everything is by design, and that I am absolute, And like you said, man, he could have just been going through something, and then you said what exactly what he needed to hear, and if that's you, if that's God or whoever that may be, it's like I said, change his whole marriage. It's pretty damn cool, man.
Pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, that's not a little thing. Like that's why I'm saying for every like 3 people that have some negative shit to say, right? There's 17,000 other positive interactions and responses to, your Facebook posts or your YouTube content or whatever the case may be. And all of this stuff, I think what a lot of people don't understand is a lot of what you're doing, especially when you own a business, is you're just telling the world who you are and what you're about, so that people that watch this, like if potential customers are reading, they're like, okay, cool, Dave's not about that pronoun shit. No, I'm not about,
Yeah.
like I'm absolutely not.
Yep.
I'm all about free speech and your rights as an American citizen, and I will gladly help you stand up and defend your rights as an American citizen. But I don't have to support you
Right.
in anything that you do simply because you say that I must. Like fuck that. No,
Yeah.
that's not something that we're gonna do. I am, man. There's just so much, to me, there's so much bullshit in the world right now that is trying to influence life and society and culture. And I don't think that there's, between you and I don't think that there's enough qualified men that are willing to take those arrows and
Yeah.
to kind of stand up and to be
Yeah.
like, hey, listen, like, there's a line, and on this side of it, we're not playing that fucking dumb shit.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And I think that's a big problem, and it seems like you have kind of grown into, for your family at least, maybe not so much in a public setting, but that feels like a lot of who you are.
Yeah, man. I think, and this is something that has really just been, I would say, probably over the last 2 years. It's about just the masculinity, right? And what happened to like that stoicism? What happened to just the good old way of man and woman, and what our societal roles are, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to dive too deep in that because, you know, there's more than enough women capable to do the man's job, right? But to me, I think one of the biggest things is, just men aren't being taught to be men anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a number of reasons why. And I think that, especially in the United States, it would be a huge benefit to, it would be at a huge benefit to see a little bit more of that masculinity come back, and without it being, a toxic masculinity type deal.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't think those two words even fucking belong in the same
No,
sentence, man, because
no.
I don't think I'll say this: masculinity, there's not a thing about masculinity in itself that is toxic.
Right.
I don't believe so.
Right.
I think that there's masculinity in its, like you referred to it, those stoic behaviors, right? Things that you stand up for reverence and poise and tact and justice and the truth, and speaking, intentionally communicating, and all these other stoic principles. That's I'll be honest with you. I feel like they started it with black fathers in the 70s and the 80s, but I'm going to be honest with you. They ran the
100%.
play in the black community, and they
Right.
said, let's see if we can extract as many of the male role models as we can,
Yep.
so these principles and these practices aren't perpetuated through to the remainder of the youth. Because if you look at this, right, take some heat for this, I don't give a shit. If you look at culture and society over the last 100 years, in the black American community, you'll see the men that came out of the civil rights movement were strong,
Yeah.
powerful,
Yep.
and very dangerous men to this establishment,
Of
right?
course.
This, the fucking
Yeah.
the puppet masters and
Right.
stuff. In my personal belief, they said, hey, listen, we have to do something about this. Let's run the play on them first.
Yeah.
And we fucking let it happen.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like
100%.
everybody, if there's no guilt, right? I don't have any fucking guilt over nothing because I wasn't even alive. But people sat around and they let the shit fucking happen because it was painted in the light that, hey, listen, this is going to be good for, this is the war on drugs. This is
Right.
the war on this. It was the war on black fathers is what it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
And then they put a fucking million of them in prison every year. And then they started running the same play. And they said, now let's do it. We're going to do it in the white families. We're going to do it in the Mexican families.
Right.
We're going to do it in all these other cultures. And we're going to literally remove masculinity from the lives
Right.
of these people. and we're fucked.
Well, yeah. I mean, and like you said, when you remove father is a very, very important role. You
This is
know,
the only role that's
it's
shared with God Almighty.
and that's the thing, man.
The
And
title.
I don't want to get too religious, but that's what ultimately it is.
And no,
You
you
know,
see, the fatherhood and the word father doesn't mean enough to enough fucking people
right?
nowadays, man.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing, you know, and God bless, you know, every mother who's raised a group of sons or daughters, or whatever the case is. But I believe that when
It's
it
a
comes to
little different.
when it comes to playing the role mother and father, they're both needed. They're both needed, and like you said, when you separate that, um, there's this quote, and it's a mother's job to teach her daughter to become a wife, and to teach her son how to become a husband. But ultimately, it's a father's responsibility to teach his daughter to be a woman, and to teach his son to be a man. And those are two, you know, very, very different things. But that when you take the father out of the household,
To teach a lot of skills.
right?
And I'm one of those guys, right? Like growing up, I've never had that that historic bestowing of masculinity. Congratulations, son. You're 18.
Yeah,
You're a
yeah,
man
you're
now.
on your yeah,
Like
yeah,
pat me on the fucking shoulder. I
right,
never had that.
right,
Like my dad used to beat my ass. And it was fucking brutal.
right,
But I always, again, that goes back to the constant seeking of approval and validation for
right,
me, right? Is
yeah,
because I imagine I had a fucking healthy father figure in my life
yeah,
that would have taught me shit about assets and
right,
liabilities
yeah,
and what it means to be a fucking man
right.
and how to protect your wife instead of, beating the piss out of her.
Yeah, and you know, and having having an upbringing like that, Dave,
Yeah.
you know, that's not something I wanted to speak lightly on or even speak about at all, you know. And I appreciate you being,
Oh, dude,
you
it
know,
is what it is.
open and honest with me. But
Fucking
I'm
20 years ago. You know what I mean?
it's and I kind of look at this because you know my father was very present,
Yeah.
but there's also things that I also recognize, and I feel like, you know, if I could put any kind of
Really.
piece on that situation, is that the way that you're raised in your family, you don't have a mold,
No.
right? Because I mean, you
Dead.
completely separated.
Dead,
You're
bro.
you're being your own individual, and there's times where I find that I'm looking at my old man
Really.
when I'm disciplining my kids or whatever the case
Oh,
is,
trust me.
and it could you know it
I
could be
hear it
that way.
sometimes in
It
my
could be
tone of
that way,
voice.
and I'm
I'm
like,
like,
whoa. I'm like, man, it
yeah.
like gives me flashbacks, right? But it's like there's some good things that can be passed on, and then like I said, you can have a very active father, really good father,
Yeah.
but you know could pass on some traits that you maybe weren't all that fond of,
Right.
and subconsciously you're
It's just
reenacting those
hardwired. Yeah,
exactly.
it's a part of you.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a part of you. How hard is it to change that? You feel like let's say you didn't come from, I mean, I could tell from my end, I don't have a single, like, I didn't learn anything about business or entrepreneurship from either one of my parents.
Right.
Neither one of my parents is a college graduate. Neither one of them, really probably made any more than $50,000 a year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
As far as I know, in my family, not including my wife, I think I'm the first person in a good 3 or 4 generations. My uncle, I've got 2 uncles that probably have done this, but other than that, man, first person to make 6 figures a year.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now it's odd. It's really odd that now I have family that asks me about buying and selling real estate. Like,
Right.
hey, should I do this? And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, now you want now you want financial advice? Okay, that's funny. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know what to tell you. But how difficult is that if that's not something that you're already wired because of where you came from? You now have to change your mindset and be willing to learn a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
And then to retain a bunch of knowledge and then to act on that knowledge. How hard is that for people?
Man, I think honestly that's probably the hardest thing to do because it's, you know, one of my favorite words. It's discipline.
Yeah.
You know, discipline is it's a tough thing. You know, and you know, the sad truth is I think most people will never experience what discipline is.
I think a lot of people will experience discipline in some form, but very few people will ever experience what actual discipline will give you.
Right.
You know,
The
the
benefit.
reward, the fucking
Right.
benefit, dude.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and like you said, you know, discipline could be, you know, what I would consider discipline is, you know, making all the necessary sacrifices, doing, reprogramming the brain, because essentially that's what we've had to do. We come from low middle class. We're like, okay, well, this is all the information that we know. This is everything that we have. What do I need to do to change that? You know, like I said, you know, both of my parents are in their mid 60s and they have not yet retired.
Yeah.
You know, I would love to say that they just love working, but I would imagine that's probably not the case, you know? And, you know, like I said, maybe at 65, I'm planning, I pray that I'm still working.
Yeah.
Hell, I pray that I'm still walking around.
Right.
But it's, like I said, it always goes back into the discipline. And are you willing and ready, prepared to do the hard thing to get the thing that you want, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, I appreciate you coming over and hanging out with us, dude. While we
Yeah.
shoot this video here, dude. What do you think about this?
Dude, absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. Like I said, the last time I seen it, it was yeah, you guys made this home. And
we got some pretty cool stuff
Yeah.
coming up. That mural is going to be pretty dope, and I'm excited to get all those more canvases like this up
Yeah.
on the walls. We're pretty excited about that. But Austin, dude, I appreciate you.
absolutely, dude. I appreciate you having me, Dave.
Yeah, fuck yeah, man. It's always a good time, brother. Where can if people are trying to maybe get in touch with you, maybe they got some fitness questions, maybe they got some real estate shit, where can people get a hold of you at?
Yeah, man. So the easiest place to find me is right now currently on Instagram, Austin Travis TX. You can find me on Facebook. I just had to restart a brand new account, but that's going to be at Austin Travis. But yeah, man, I would love the opportunity to help anywhere and anyone that I can. That being, you know, construction, new home construction, real estate. Love the opportunity to help somebody.
Nice, man. Nice, dude. I appreciate you coming
Awesome,
by.
man.
That's gonna do it for us. We're gonna wrap up tonight, but thanks for staying tuned. I definitely appreciate you watching. Got some pretty good announcements, some pretty solid stuff that we're gonna be talking about in the coming future, and we might have a spring roof camp announcement. So that's gonna be pretty cool if we do this in the spring, man. So again, thanks for watching. I'm Dave Taggart, the Roof Poppy, your favorite roofer's favorite roofer, the MF CEO here at A5 Roofing and Roofing Underground. We'll catch you next time.